Calvin Murphy stands as one of basketball's most unique figures, a player who defied every physical expectation of professional athletics, while building a Hall of Fame career that would later be shadowed by serious legal controversies. At nearly 80 years old, Murphy's legacy remains a complex tapestry, woven from athletic excellence and legal troubles that unfolded decades after his playing days ended. Murphy's basketball journey began in an era when size dominated the sport. Standing just 5 feet 9 inches tall, he entered the NBA in 1970, when the average player height was already approaching 6 feet 6 inches. His recruitment to the San Diego Rockets, who would later become the Houston Rockets, represented a bold gamble on skill over stature. Murphy proved that gamble worthwhile through an exceptional 13-year career that lasted until 1983. His playing style was characterized by relentless energy and remarkable accuracy from the free throw line. Murphy set records that still stand today, including consecutive free throws made and single-season free throw percentage. These achievements were not mere statistical curiosities, but demonstrations of the mental toughness and precision that allowed him to compete against much larger opponents. His ability to draw fouls and convert the resulting free throws became a signature weapon that opponents struggled to counter. The Basketball Hall of Fame induction in 1993 represented the pinnacle of recognition for Murphy's playing career. He became the shortest player ever enshrined in Springfield, a testament to his skill transcending physical limitations. This honor placed him among basketball's immortals, cementing his status as one of the game's most unlikely but deserving legends. Following retirement, Murphy transitioned seamlessly into broadcasting, joining the Houston Rockets television broadcast team. His colorful personality and deep knowledge of the game made him a fan favorite. Murphy's flamboyant style and insider perspective provided viewers with knowledge of items that officers had not yet mentioned to him. The statement violated a fundamental principle that most people learn about interactions with law enforcement. Before his trial, Murphy's defense attorney requested a psychiatric evaluation, reporting that Murphy claimed to be hearing voices and had difficulty understanding legal advice. This motion triggered formal competency proceedings, a standard legal procedure designed to ensure defendants can meaningfully participate in their own defense. 2 forensic psychiatrists, Dr. Thomas Kucharski and Dr. Leslie Knutson, conducted comprehensive evaluations of Murphy's mental state. Their findings were particularly significant. While they determined Murphy was legally competent to stand trial, they documented strong suspicions that he was fabricating mental illness symptoms. The psychiatrists noted that his descriptions of auditory hallucinations were inconsistent with genuine psychiatric conditions. This professional assessment suggested Murphy was attempting to manipulate the legal system, a finding that would later gain relevance in subsequent legal proceedings. The competency determination allowed his case to proceed to trial, where he faced charges under federal law for being a convicted felon in possession of a firearm and ammunition. The prosecution's case relied heavily on Murphy's spontaneous confession and physical evidence found in his vehicle. Federal firearms charges carry severe penalties, particularly for repeat offenders, and Murphy's case was prosecuted with the full weight of federal resources. After trial proceedings, he was convicted on both counts and initially sentenced to 24 years and 5 months in federal prison. Murphy exercised his right to appeal the conviction to the Sixth Circuit Court of Appeals. The appellate court's decision was nuanced. They affirmed his conviction, meaning the jury's guilty verdict was legally sound, but they found procedural errors in his sentencing. Specifically, the trial court had incorrectly designated Murphy as an armed career criminal under federal sentencing guidelines, which significantly enhanced his punishment. The appellate court determined probable cause. The grand jury returned indictments on 6 felony counts, setting the stage for what would become a month-long trial that attracted significant media attention due to Murphy's celebrity status. The prosecution pursued a character-based strategy, attempting to portray Murphy as a master manipulator who maintained a false public image. They introduced evidence about his personal life, including the fact that he had fathered 14 children with 9 different women, while presenting himself publicly as having a traditional family structure. Prosecutors characterized him as a liar and cheat who used his public persona to conceal his true nature. The defense team, led by prominent attorney Rusty Hardin, pursued a dramatically different strategy. They argued the allegations were fabricated and motivated by a financial dispute over death benefits from Murphy's deceased long-term partner, Phyllis Davidson. Davidson had died in a car accident in 1996 after a 20-year relationship with Murphy. The timing of events became crucial to the defense argument. Court records showed that Murphy was the rightful beneficiary of Davidson's teacher retirement system account, worth over $52,000. Letters confirming his beneficiary status were sent to all parties, including his daughters, in February 2004. The sexual abuse charges were filed just 1 month later, in March 2004. This timeline suggested a possible connection between the resolution of the financial dispute in Murphy's favor and the subsequent filing of criminal charges. The defense argued this was not coincidental, but rather demonstrated the accuser's financial motivation for making allegations they knew to be false. Throughout the trial, Murphy maintained his innocence and even testified in his own defense, tearfully denying all accusations. The decision to have a defendant testify is always risky, as it opens them to cross-examination, but it demonstrated Murphy's confidence in his position. After a month of testimony and evidence presentation, the jury began deliberations. Criminal cases of this complexity typically involve extended jury deliberations, as panels carefully review back, and he continues serving as a television analyst today. The contrasting outcomes of Murphy's 2 major legal challenges reflect the different types of evidence involved. The firearm case included physical evidence and self-incriminating statements that provided concrete proof of guilt. The sexual abuse case relied primarily on witness testimony, where credible alternative motives could create reasonable doubt about the accusation's veracity. Murphy's legal history illustrates how the criminal justice system handles different types of allegations and evidence. Where evidence was concrete and supported by the defendant's own admissions, conviction resulted. Where testimony-based charges faced credible alternative explanations, acquittal followed. The psychiatric findings from the firearm case, suggesting Murphy's willingness to fabricate mental illness, provided context for the prosecution's later characterization of him as manipulative during the sexual abuse trial. However, the jury ultimately found the financial motive explanation more credible than the prosecution's character assassination approach. Today, Murphy continues his broadcasting career with the Houston Rockets, demonstrating remarkable resilience in maintaining his public platform despite serious legal challenges. His case established legal precedent in federal courts regarding statements made in police custody, ensuring his legal troubles will have lasting impact beyond his personal circumstances. The complexity of Murphy's legacy reflects broader questions about how society evaluates public figures who face legal challenges. His basketball achievements remain undisputed. He overcame physical limitations to build a Hall of Fame career that inspired countless undersized players. Yet his legal troubles add layers of controversy that complicate simple narratives about athletic heroism. Murphy's story serves as a reminder that legal outcomes depend heavily on evidence quality and presentation. The same person who was convicted in federal court for firearm possession was acquitted by a different jury in a different case where evidence standards and circumstances varied significantly. This demonstrates both the complexity of the legal system and the importance of viewing each case independently.
The unbelievable crimes of Isaiah Thomas are like none other. His shocking sexual harassment lawsuit became one of the biggest scandals in NBA history, and for good reason. The details that came out painted a disturbing picture, and it was clear that some dark secrets had finally come to light. But as if that wasn't already enough to damage his name, Isaiah made things even worse with his infamous comments about Larry Bird. So what exactly went down? Let's rewind to the mid-2000s. Isaiah Thomas was no longer the superstar point guard everyone remembered from the Detroit Pistons. Instead, he was running the show for the New York Knicks as both head coach and president of basketball operations. But things took a dark turn in 2007 when a bombshell lawsuit rocked Madison Square Garden. A former Knicks executive, Anucha Brown Sanders, came forward with serious allegations. She claimed that Thomas had sexually harassed her during her time with the team. The case went to trial, and the details that surfaced were both shocking and disturbing. The jury ended up siding with Brown Sanders, finding that not only had Thomas harassed her, but Madison Square Garden had also retaliated against her for speaking up. It was a huge moment, one that exposed a toxic environment behind the scenes of one of the NBA's most iconic franchises. In the end, MSG settled the lawsuit for a staggering $11.5 million. Thomas, for his part, denied any wrongdoing. He wasn't personally ordered to pay damages, but the damage to his reputation was already done. And if you thought that was the only stain on Isaiah's legacy, think again. Let's go back 2 decades earlier. Back to the heat of the 1987 Eastern Conference Finals. The Detroit Pistons had just lost to the Boston Celtics, and tensions were running high. In the aftermath, Dennis Rodman, then a young Pistons player, called Larry Bird overrated, and Isaiah, instead of cooling things down, threw gasoline on the fire. He backed up Rodman and added that if Bird were black, he would be just another good guy. Those words hit hard, and not in a good way. They weren't just seen as trash talk, they were seen as racially charged and incredibly disrespectful. The backlash was swift. Not only did it stir up controversy in the media, but it also strained Isaiah's relationship with his close friend and fellow superstar, Magic Johnson. Just like his name is tied to major scandals, Isaiah Thomas also built a career filled with major accomplishments. So how about we take a ride through his time on the court and see what made him a true basketball legend? It all started in 1981, when the Detroit Pistons made one of the best decisions in franchise history. They used the 2nd overall pick in the NBA draft to select a fiery young point guard out of Indiana University, Isaiah Thomas. They signed him to a 4-year, $1.6 million contract, and from day one, he was ready to lead. It didn't take long for Thomas to make his mark. In just his rookie year, he earned a starting spot in the 1982 NBA All-Star Game and was named to the All-Rookie team. Detroit fans knew they had something special. Over the next few years, Thomas turned into the heart and soul of the Pistons. One unforgettable moment came on December 13, 1983, in a wild game against the Denver Nuggets. The game went into triple overtime, and Thomas exploded for 47 points and 17 assists. The Pistons won 186-184, and that night became one of the most legendary shootouts in NBA history. But Thomas wasn't just about putting up stats. He lived for the playoffs. In 1984, he gave fans another jaw-dropping moment. Facing the New York Knicks in a do-or-die Game 5, Thomas did something nearly impossible. With the Pistons trailing late, he scored 16 points in just 94 seconds to force overtime. It was one of the most explosive scoring bursts ever seen. Unfortunately, he fouled out, and the Knicks went on to win the game in the series. But that performance showed just how electric Thomas could be when the moment called for it. The Pistons were improving every year, and in the 1985 playoffs, they found themselves going toe-to-toe with the powerhouse Boston Celtics. This Celtics squad was no joke. They had legends like Larry Bird, Kevin McHale, Robert Parrish, and Dennis Johnson. Detroit battled hard but came up short in 6 games. Still, they were getting closer. By 1987, the Pistons had become real contenders. They made it all the way to the Eastern Conference Finals for the first time since the team moved to Detroit from Fort Wayne. Once again, it was Boston standing in their way. The series was tight, and Game 5 at Boston Garden turned into a heartbreaker. With just seconds left and Detroit up by 1, Thomas tried to inbound the ball quickly, but Larry Bird, always lurking, stole the pass and dished it to Dennis Johnson for the game-winning layup. Just like that, the Pistons' hopes were crushed. It was a painful lesson, but the team was learning how to win. Finally, in 1988, the breakthrough came. The Pistons got their revenge on the Celtics, beating them in the Eastern Conference Finals. Only Kevin McHale stuck around to shake hands, something fans would remember. Now it was time for the NBA Finals, where the Pistons would face the mighty Los Angeles Lakers, led by Magic Johnson, James Worthy, and Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. Before the series began, Thomas and Magic, close friends, shared a courtside kiss on the cheek, a rare display of affection between competitors. Detroit played with grit and heart, and after 5 games, they led the series 3-2. Game 6 became one of the defining moments of Thomas's career. Late in the game, he badly sprained his ankle, but instead of sitting out, he pushed through the pain. What happened next was legendary. Thomas scored 25 points in the 3rd quarter alone, setting an NBA Finals record. He was clearly in pain, hobbling around the court, but he kept going. Still, the Pistons lost the game 103-102 after a controversial foul sent Kareem to the line for the game-winning free throws. In Game 7, with Thomas clearly not at full strength, the Lakers clinched the title. But no one could question Isaiah's heart. The very next year, in the 1988-89 season, the Pistons came back stronger than ever. With Thomas leading the way and a tough supporting cast that included Joe DeMars, Dennis Rodman, Bill Laimbeer, Vinnie Johnson, John Salley, and Mark Aguirre, the team finished with a 63-19 record. They played physical, aggressive basketball that earned them the nickname the Bad Boys. In the playoffs, they knocked out Boston, battled past Michael Jordan and the Bulls in 6 games using their famous Jordan rules, and then swept the Lakers in the finals. Finally, Thomas and the Pistons were champions, but they weren't done. In the 1989-90 season, the Pistons stayed on top. They earned the top seed again and made another strong run through the playoffs. After defeating the Pacers and Knicks, they faced the Bulls once more in the Eastern Conference Finals. This time it took 7 games, but Detroit won and went on to the finals, where they beat Clyde Drexler's Portland Trail Blazers. Isaiah Thomas was named Finals MVP, averaging 27.6 points, 7.0 assists, and 5.2 rebounds per game. He had reached the pinnacle twice, but all dynasties eventually faced decline. In 1990-91, the Pistons dealt with injuries, and Thomas himself only played 49 games due to a wrist injury. They still managed to win 50 games and made it back to the conference finals, but the Bulls were now a different team. Led by a more mature Michael Jordan, Chicago swept Detroit in 4 games. And in one of the most infamous moments in NBA history, Thomas and most of the Pistons left the court before the game ended, refusing to shake hands with the Bulls. The following years were tough. In 1992, the Pistons lost in the first round to the Knicks. In 1993, they missed the playoffs for the first time in over a decade. Thomas was aging, and his body was wearing down. Then came the moment that ended it all. In April 1994, Thomas tore his Achilles tendon. A month later, he officially retired from the NBA. And that's a wrap for today's video. If you had a good time watching, be sure to hit that like button and don't forget to subscribe. We'll catch you again soon. Bye for now. The unbelievable crimes of Chris Webber will honestly shock you to the core. This isn't just some regular drama. We're talking second-degree assault, resisting arrest, weed possession, driving high, and a whole bunch of traffic violations. And if you think that's the end of it, you're way off. His ties to the University of Michigan booster scandal take things to a whole new level. This story just keeps getting worse the deeper you go. Back in 2002, Webber got caught up in a huge legal situation tied to Ed Martin, a man who was both a known gambler and a big-time booster for the Michigan basketball program. Martin wasn't just some casual fan handing out autographs and pats on the back. He ran an illegal numbers gambling operation out of Ford plants in the Detroit area and was being investigated for tax evasion and financial crimes. But as the investigation deepened, it uncovered a secret pipeline of money flowing from Martin straight into the pockets of Michigan players, including Webber. That's when things took a turn. Webber ended up being charged for lying to a grand jury about the money he took from Martin. And it wasn't just a one-time thing. Webber later admitted he had been accepting money from Ed Martin as far back as 8th grade. That's right. Before he even became a high school basketball star, the money had already started coming in. And when Webber turned pro, he tried to quietly pay Martin back around $38,000 in cash as a way to clean up the past. But it was too late. Martin died of a heart attack before he could testify about all the money that exchanged hands, but the damage was already done. Webber pleaded guilty to criminal contempt for lying under oath and was sentenced to pay $100,000 and perform 330 hours of community service. That guilty plea didn't just stain his personal record, it sent shockwaves through the University of Michigan. Because of the scandal, Michigan was forced to take down its Final Four banners from 1992 and 1993, erase Webber's name from the record books, and forfeit their wins. The NCAA ordered the school to completely cut ties with Webber for a full decade, until 2013. It was like Michigan tried to scrub away any trace of him ever being there. Webber later said that decision was hurtful, especially because he felt like he and the other members of the Fab Five gave their hearts to that school. And the drama didn't stop with college basketball. After Weber's plea, the Michigan High School Athletic Association got involved too. They suggested Detroit Country Day, Weber's high school, should give up all the games he played in, including 3 state championships, since he admitted to taking money as early as junior high. But the school pushed back, saying there wasn't any hard proof that he took substantial cash in high school. The MHSAA didn't have the legal authority to force any forfeits, so nothing happened there. But the cloud over Weber's early career only got darker. Even the NBA had something to say. When Weber finally got healthy during the 2003-04 season, he was slapped with an 8-game suspension, 5 games for violating the league's substance abuse policy, and 3 more for lying to the grand jury. It was like the past just wouldn't let him go. The whole ordeal was later highlighted in the ESPN Films documentary, The Fab Five, in 2011. It dove deep into the rise and fall of that iconic group, but Weber didn't want to be a part of it. He refused to take part in the documentary, and Michigan stood firm. No reconciliation unless Weber publicly apologized for the scandal. That 10-year self-imposed ban the school had placed on him and the others? It finally ended in 2013. Still, Weber stayed away until November 3, 2018. That day, football coach Jim Harbaugh invited him back to Michigan as an honorary captain for the game against Penn State. It was his first official return to the university in years, and the crowd welcomed him with open arms. Weber later said the moment gave him goosebumps and brought tears to his eyes. He didn't meet with the basketball team or coaches, but Michigan head coach John Beilein still called it a great step in the right direction. When Juwan Howard, Weber's old Fab Five teammate, took over as head coach in 2019, Weber said he was finally open to reconnecting with the basketball program, but wanted to keep it private. Now, if you thought the Michigan scandal was the only bump in Weber's past, think again. Let's rewind to 1998. That year, Weber found himself in serious legal trouble after getting pulled over for speeding in Prince George's County, Maryland. What started as a simple traffic stop turned into a full-blown arrest. Weber was hit with a long list of charges: second-degree assault, resisting arrest, possession of marijuana, driving under the influence of marijuana, and 5 other traffic violations. He was just trying to get to the practice facility, but the situation quickly spiraled out of control. Eventually, a jury found him not guilty of the major charges. He was acquitted of the assault, resisting arrest, and drug-related offenses. But he still had to pay $560 in fines for the minor traffic violations. Even so, the headlines weren't kind, and the incident added more fuel to the fire already surrounding his name. And that wasn't even the end of it. Later that same year, during an off-season promotional trip to Puerto Rico for Fila sneakers, Weber ran into more trouble. As he was leaving the country, U.S. Customs found marijuana in his bag. Weber paid a $500 fine, but that minor bust had major consequences. Fila, the sneaker company he was representing, dropped him as an endorser almost immediately. That could have been the end of the relationship, but Weber wasn't done fighting. He took Fila to arbitration and ended up being awarded $2.61 million for breach of contract. Even after his basketball career, the legal and financial troubles didn't fully go away. In 2010, after his first restaurant shut down, Weber was hit with a massive lawsuit by the property owner, Promenade. The lawsuit claimed Weber had violated the terms of a 20-year lease signed in 2005 and owed around $3 million in damages, including unpaid rent and money needed to find a new tenant. Another chapter in a long list of battles Weber has faced both on and off the court. Now, how about we talk about his actual basketball career, shall we? It all started in 1993 when Weber was selected first overall in the NBA draft by the Orlando Magic. But in a surprising move, he was immediately traded to the Golden State Warriors for Penny Hardaway and 3 future first-round picks. Weber made an instant impact. In his rookie season, he averaged 17.5 points and 9.1 rebounds per game, earning him Rookie of the Year honors and helping the Warriors make the playoffs. But behind the scenes, things weren't so smooth. He didn't see eye to eye with head coach Don Nelson, especially when Nelson tried to make him a full-time center. Weber hated that role and eventually used a contract escape clause to force his way out after just 1 season. The Warriors had no choice but to trade him to the Washington Bullets. In Washington, Webber was reunited with his college buddy Juwan Howard. He had some incredible moments there, like dropping a 40-point triple-double against his former team. But injuries slowed him down. Still, he bounced back and made his first All-Star team in 1997, while leading the Bullets to their first playoff appearance in nearly a decade. But by 1998, Webber was ready for a fresh start again, and he was traded to the Sacramento Kings. At first, he didn't want to go to Sacramento. The Kings were seen as one of the worst teams in the league. But what happened next was something no one expected. Webber, along with new teammates like Peja Stojakovic, Vlade Divac, and flashy rookie Jason Williams, helped turn the Kings into one of the most exciting teams in the NBA. In his first season, Webber led the league in rebounds and helped take the Kings to the playoffs. Over the next few years, Sacramento became a powerhouse, and Webber became the face of the franchise. He was a multi-time All-Star, MVP candidate, and one of the most skilled big men in the game. The Kings came painfully close to reaching the NBA Finals in 2002, battling the Lakers in a legendary 7-game series that ended with heartbreaking controversy in Game 6 and an overtime loss in Game 7. Webber kept putting up big numbers, but in 2003, disaster struck. He suffered a serious knee injury during a playoff game, which changed everything. Though he made a comeback, he was never quite the same. After a few more playoff runs, he was traded to the Philadelphia 76ers in 2005. In Philly, Webber teamed up with Allen Iverson, but the fit wasn't perfect. He had a solid season, averaging 20 points and 10 rebounds, but the team missed the playoffs. By 2007, his role was shrinking, and he accepted a buyout from the Sixers. He then joined his hometown team, the Detroit Pistons, and helped them reach the Eastern Conference Finals. It was a dream come true in a way, but the finals still remained out of reach. Webber gave it one last shot with a return to Golden State in 2008, but his knee wouldn't hold up. After just 9 games, he retired. Not long after, the Kings honored him by retiring his jersey. It was a fitting tribute for a player who gave that team its most unforgettable years. And that wraps up today's video. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and we'll see you next time. Bye. Javaris Crittenton's story is one of the most shocking you'll ever hear. The way he ended up in jail isn't just tragic, it's downright disturbing. This wasn't some minor scandal or headline you scroll past. The more the details came out, the more jaw-dropping and unsettling the whole case became. People couldn't believe what they were hearing. So let's take a closer look at how things spiraled so far out of control for a former NBA player with so much promise. Let's go back to August 19, 2011. On that night, a young woman named Julian Jones, just 22 years old and a mother of 4, was shot in Atlanta. She wasn't doing anything wrong. She wasn't involved in a fight. In fact, she wasn't even the intended target. Police later said she was simply in the wrong place at the wrong time. Crittenton, according to investigators, had been trying to get back at someone who robbed him earlier that year in April. But instead of hitting the person he believed had wronged him, the bullet struck Jones in the leg. She died during surgery and the city was left in shock. Crittenton quickly became the prime suspect. On August 26th, just a week after the shooting, he was charged with Jones's murder. A few days later, on August 29th, FBI agents arrested him at John Wayne Airport in Orange County, California. He was about to board a flight to Atlanta, and according to his lawyer, he wasn't trying to run. He was actually planning to turn himself in. Still, the arrest was big news. The idea that a former first-round NBA draft pick was being charged with murder felt unbelievable to most people. Once in custody, Crittenton denied having anything to do with the shooting. He posted a $230,000 bond and was released while he waited for trial. But things kept getting worse. In April 2013, both Crittenton and his cousin, Douglas Gamble, were formally indicted. The charges were serious. 12 counts in total, including murder, felony murder, aggravated assault, attempted murder, and even participating in criminal street gang activity. Prosecutors claimed that Crittenton had joined the Crips gang after getting drafted by the Los Angeles Lakers, which shocked a lot of people who remembered him as a quiet, talented kid out of Georgia Tech. The story didn't end there. Prosecutors also linked Crittenton to another shooting earlier that same month in August 2011. They believed he had fired shots at a man named Demontinez Stevens. The intended target in both shootings, they said, was Trontavious Stevens, Demontinez's brother, who was reportedly part of a Bloods-affiliated gang called the ROC Crew. This made things even more complicated and revealed a much darker lifestyle than what most people thought an NBA player would be involved in. And just when it seemed like the case couldn't get worse, it did. While out on bond for the murder charges, Crittenton got into even more trouble. In January 2014, he and 13 other people were indicted again, this time for drug trafficking. Authorities accused him of being part of a group that was selling large amounts of cocaine and marijuana across Georgia. He was hit with 2 new charges for conspiracy to violate the Georgia Controlled Substances Act. So now he wasn't just dealing with a murder charge, he was also accused of running with drug dealers. By 2015, Crittenton was facing a possible life sentence if the murder trial went badly. So in April of that year, just before the trial was set to start, he took a plea deal. He pleaded guilty to voluntary manslaughter with a weapon and aggravated assault with a firearm. The court sentenced him to 23 years in prison, but under a deal with the district attorney, the sentence was reduced to 10 years. Even then, it was a stunning fall for someone who had once been in the NBA spotlight. Crittenton ended up serving nearly 8 years behind bars. He was released on April 21st, 2023. Now, years after that tragic shooting, his name still brings up one of the NBA's darkest off-court stories. A young man who had the talent to make it big, but made choices that led to heartbreak, violence, and a completely shattered life. Now let's rewind and take a look at what Javaris Crittenton's life was like before everything spiraled out of control. Born and raised in Atlanta, Georgia, Crittenton had worked hard to rise through the ranks of high school and college basketball. By the time the 2007 NBA draft came around, teams were watching him closely. And on draft night, the Los Angeles Lakers selected him with the 19th overall pick in the first round. That moment should have been the start of a long and successful career. Crittenton made a strong first impression in the NBA Summer League, showing flashes of the talent that had earned him a spot on a storied franchise like the Lakers. On July 8, 2007, during a Summer League game, he scored 18 points and nailed the game-winning jumper with just 1.6 seconds left on the clock. Lakers fans were excited. He wasn't just a rookie, he was clutch, confident, and looked like he belonged on the big stage. In the Lakers' first preseason game against the Golden State Warriors in Honolulu, Crittenton once again showed his scoring ability, dropping another 18 points. Even though the team lost 111 to 110, his performance stood out. People were starting to believe the Lakers might have found another hidden gem. But Crittenton's time in Los Angeles didn't last long. On February 1st, 2008, the Lakers made a blockbuster trade to bring in Pau Gasol, and Crittenton was one of the players shipped out. He was sent to the Memphis Grizzlies along with Kwame Brown, Aaron McKie, the rights to Marc Gasol, and 2 first-round draft picks. It was a big move for both franchises, and for Crittenton, it was a chance to get more minutes on the court. He made the most of his opportunity in Memphis. On April 2nd, 2008, he dropped a career-high 23 points in a 130-114 win over the New York Knicks. It looked like he was starting to find his rhythm, showing the kind of scoring ability that scouts had talked about for years. But once again, he didn't stay put for long. On December 10th, 2008, Crittenton was traded again, this time as part of a 3-team deal that sent him to the Washington Wizards. The trade also involved veteran guard Mike James and sent Antonio Daniels to the New Orleans Hornets. For Crittenton, it was his third NBA team in less than 2 years. Still, he remained hopeful and determined to find his place. Then came the incident that changed everything. On December 21, 2009, Crittenton and teammate Gilbert Arenas were involved in a now infamous locker room confrontation involving guns. The details were bizarre, and no one could quite believe what they were hearing. The story made national headlines. 2 NBA teammates pulling guns in the team locker room over a gambling dispute. It shocked the league, fans, and sports commentators everywhere. Former teammate Karen Butler later reflected on the situation, saying, "You never know, and that's the crazy thing about it," when asked whether he thought someone might have actually pulled the trigger that day. The entire episode left a stain on Crittenton's career that he couldn't shake. On January 25, 2010, Crittenton pleaded guilty to a misdemeanor gun possession charge. He was given a year of probation. Just 2 days later, NBA Commissioner David Stern suspended both Crittenton and Arenas for the remainder of the season. While Arenas eventually returned to the team, Crittenton was released by the Wizards and never played another game in the NBA. In a last effort to keep his professional career alive, the Charlotte Bobcats signed him to a non-guaranteed contract on September 22, 2010. But it didn't last. He was released just 3 weeks later, on October 15th. The spark that once made him a promising young guard was now fading fast. Still chasing the game he loved, Crittenton went overseas and joined the Zhejiang Guangxia Lions in China in December 2010. He played 5 games and averaged an impressive 25.8 points per game. But even that didn't last. He left China after just a few weeks and came back to the U.S. In early 2011, Crittenton joined the Dakota Wizards of the NBA D-League, hoping to work his way back to the top. He played in 21 games, starting 5 of them. That would end up being the last professional team he ever played for. And that wraps up today's video. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and we'll catch you in the next one.